So we already talked about if an MVP candidate like Nikola Jokic were to, God forbid, once again get injured or just kind of fall and have a bad slump. Who would you say is next in line to take him off of the MVP throne?
Kevin, if I had to point somebody out in particular, I'd probably say Giannis, because here's why. When I look at Giannis and the current situation that he has with Milwaukee, he's clearly their number one player. I can't say the same for Embiid right now because now that James Harden is on the roster with the 76ers, we don't know how the dynamics of that team are going to be moving forward because you look at Embiid and you look at Harden, both of those guys are ball dominant players. And we've seen in the past when James aligns with ball dominant players, specifically guys like Chris Paul and Russell Westbrook in the past, there's been some clashes where it's resulted in damage to the team as far as their total effectiveness goes. If I had to kind of put a bet on it early on, I think that Embiid is going to actually take a step back now that James is in Philly, just because I think he's going to allow James to make his presence known with the 76ers in the rotation. And I think with that said, Embiid's stature is really like the number one guy in Philly is going to take a hit. It's going to be more of a 1A, 1B situation in Philly with James and Embiid in those two respective spots. With Giannis, Giannis is still playing at such a high level. The guy's sensational. I mean, the guy's already won 2 MVPs in the past. He won them in back-to-back years. So Giannis is always in the MVP discussion. The Bucks are coming off of a great year last year where they beat the Phoenix Suns in the finals last year, and he's followed it up with an amazing year once again. The Bucks are in the top of the Eastern Conference. Granted, they're not the number one seed in the East, but they're really nipping at the heels for that number one seed. It's just Giannis, he provides such a great value for Milwaukee as far as his offensive output goes. He's averaging damn near 30 points a game. He's averaging over 10 rebounds a game. And he's also providing a great facilitator role by being able to assist the ball as well. And that's really what you want to look at when it comes to MVP considerations. You know, it's one thing if you just dominate on one side of the ball, but if you dominate on both sides of the ball and you provide different motives or you provide different aspects on each side of the ball. So, like, for example, Giannis is able to not only score, he's able to assist. On the defensive side of the ball, he's able to rebound, he's also able to steal, and he's also able to block. When you factor all those together, you get a total package, and Giannis definitely has that. So, overall, if I had to pick between Giannis or Embiid, I would say that Giannis probably has the best shot to dethrone Jokic just because I think Jokic is clearly the favorite as far as MVP is concerned. But, you know, Giannis can definitely go out there and steal it if he really goes off in the second half of the season. If he's able to propel Milwaukee to the top seed in the Eastern Conference when it's all said and done by the end of the regular season, you can make a very strong case that Giannis should win MVP over Nikola Jokic. And that's just how I see it.
Well, I mean, you kind of stole my thunder here. I don't like not having a rebuttal. This is kind of not fun for me, but I will agree with Kyle and say the same exact thing. Giannis Antetokounmpo's impact on the court is not necessarily unmatched, but is a perfect fit for what Milwaukee needs because he is a true definition of a two-way player. He's a two-time Defensive Player of the Year, two-time MVP, and we all know what he did in last year's postseason, ending it with a Finals 50 piece and Finals MVP. So it's really hard for me to try to side with Joel because we all know that he may not be a guard like Russell Westbrook or guard like Chris Paul, but we know what James Harden did to Dwight Howard when they played together quite some time ago. And that was Dwight Howard coming off of one of his better seasons the year prior. So we're looking at this and saying, how is this duo going to mesh? Could James end up elevating Joel Embiid on the pick and roll and getting him better looks? Maybe. Could they end up clashing completely because they're very, like Kyle said, ball dominant, strong willed, and heightened personalities? 100%. We don't know what's going to happen. No matter what happens in Milwaukee, they've made sure to keep that core from last year together. Drew got his extension, Chris Middleton got his extension, and Giannis got his extension. That trio right there is locked in for the foreseeable future. They picked up Serge Ibaka. They still have Brooke Lopez, and obviously they still have a couple of other big role players like like Bobby Portis and whatnot. So I can't sit here and say that their chemistry is in jeopardy whatsoever. Giannis is going to keep being Giannis no matter what happens this year. If Chris Middleton were to go down, or if Drew Holiday were to go into a slump, let's be frank, that's more shot attempts for Giannis. That's more time of possession with Giannis. That's more opportunities to get assists and rebounds and blocks and all of these different things because other players aren't available. You went and added a top 10 player right next to Joel Embiid, a person that's coming off of a diva situation in Brooklyn, a person that is also battling injuries of his own. And let's be honest, out of all the players on this court, or should I say on this list, Joel Embiid's the most injury prone. So if anybody's going to miss some time, it could very well be Joel Embiid. And again, I'm not saying that's going to happen, but if we're bringing all of these things into account to try to make an argument for who would knock Jokic off the hill, to me, it's not close to being Joel Embiid. And granted, he's having an absolute phenomenal season. He's literally on the precipice of averaging 30 points. He's at 29.6. He's at 11 boards. He's averaging a career high in assists. We get it. But you take him out, you still have James Harden. You take him out, he still has Tobias Harris, who we all know can take over in a game in and of himself. So I'm just saying, I'm looking at this, and I got to side with Kyle and, just favor Giannis because he's been in the situation before. No one saw a kid from Greece dominating the league like he did. And I'm just going to be frank, man. I think if Jokic were to fall, Giannis is about to have his third MVP before he turns, 28? That's nuts.